Hello everyone, Dana here. Doing something, oh, thank you for joining me. We're doing something a little different today. I had a request to make a video on what I was talking about in Melanie Smith's live video the other day. If you didn't catch that, I will put her the link to her channel down below. But she was doing some mixed media, and I had mentioned in the chat that she could kind of mute the background if she used a little bit of gesso or white paint and kind of dry brushed it on. So I wanted to show y'all what I was talking about, and Melanie, this one's for you. But yeah, so I'm going to show you 3 ways to do that with white gesso. I prefer gesso over paint just because I like the white chalky look. But we'll be using a brayer, a brush, and a palette knife. Now for the palette knives, I prefer to use the ones like this that are kind of offset and they're longer. If you just have these ones, it will work too, but that's what I prefer to use. Also, instead of a palette knife, you could use an old gift card, old credit card, something like that. And then I did make a couple different sets of backgrounds here. Now, this one's not quite dry. Let me wipe off the wet here. Okay, there we go. And I made 2 of each so that you can kind of see the before and after. Now, of course, they do all look completely different. You can tell which one I did first and which one I did second. But anywho, this will at least give you an idea of what I was talking about. Now, any white gesso will work. This just happens to be the one that I have, but any that you have will work. So for the first one, we're just going to do the brayer. And since this gesso is in a tub, I'm just going to grab my little palette knife here. And you just want a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of spread that on a thin layer on my little craft sheet here. If you don't have a craft sheet, you can use a piece of wax paper or a piece of parchment paper. Whatever will work. You could also use your jelly plate if that's all you have. Use that. You just want to apply a light coat to the brayer. My brayer is covered in paint. Won't matter. It's dry. So I just want to add a very light layer to the brayer here. And then one thing that you want to think about is where you want your focal point to be. So for these ones, I'm going to do the center just because that is easier, but that is something that you'll want to think about. You want to start off the page and then quickly go up, just kind of wherever you want to go. I didn't really get enough here. Yep. I was talking about doing a light layer and I did too light of a layer. But you can kind of see here, I hope my camera's picking it up, but it added some white little speckles, which in itself just kind of muted it a little bit right there. Okay. There we go. That's a little better. So you can see it's just muting that so that the center is more of the focal point. Now, if you had white paint, it wouldn't be as translucent as this unless you had a translucent white paint. And it also is going to probably be a little bit shiny. Of course, again, depending on the paint that you use. You can do more than this. You can do less than this. It's really just up to you. This is just showing you the technique. So you can see here, one without, one with. Now this to start was a little bit lighter because it's the second one that I did with the ink smushing, so there was less ink. But this just kind of gives you an idea of what I was talking about. So that's how you do it with the brayer. I'm just going to put my brayer in some water and I will wash it off in a bit. I don't like to let gesso dry on it just because it does have a bit of a texture to it. Wipe off my hands. Okay, So then the second one we'll just go ahead and do it with the palette knife. So I'm going to clean my palette knife off a bit here. So you just want it on the back. And again, I just want kind of a light layer, and I'm going to go in kind of at an angle here. So again, I'm going to have my focal point be kind of in the center, but for this one, I'm going to come in on the sides. So you want to start kind of off the edge of the page, have your palette knife angled up, and you're just going to swipe. And then one thing that you want to keep in mind is because this is distress ink on your background, it is water reactive. So the more you swipe, the more chances you have of reactivating your distress ink. So you might get some color in there too. And then you can go in there and make some different little marks. So in that you can see it just itself, it muted it. So the way that I think of this is when you're creating something in, say, Canva, and you've got a lot of layers, and you click the little send to back button, that's basically what you're doing with the color here, is you're kind of sending it to the back so that your focal image and your focal area are more pronounced than just, you know, a busy, messy background. And it leads the eye towards the center of the page or wherever you want your focal point to be. So again, here is the first one and the second one. And then the next technique that we're going to do is actually be using a brush. Now you want a flat brush or a stencil brush, which let me grab one right quick. So you want something that the bristles are fairly stiff and there's a lot of them. And then they have like a flat end on them. So even though this one is like a round barrel, the ends of the brushes themselves are flat. So something like this wouldn't work as well, a round brush, because everything comes to a point. So it wouldn't work as well. You can still use it. It's just going to give you a different technique or a different look. So I'm just going to take some gesso, put it on my area here, and then I'm just kind of dabbing into the gesso because I just want to load it up on the end of the bristles, because you're not going to actually be really painting with this. You're just kind of sweeping across it. So holding my brush straight up, same thing, I'm going to start off the edge of the page and I'm just going to swipe up. For me, it's easier to go away from me than it is to come towards me, but for video's sake, I'll do it this way. See, and it just kind of mutes it there. And then with the stencil brush, you'll do the exact same thing, but it's just going to give you a little bit different of a look. See, and if you add more, it's going to be less transparent. Let me flip this around, because this with this brush, it's definitely easier for me to go away from me here. And so you still have all those lovely colors, but it's just muted a little bit, so you have more of a focal point. So just to recap, this was the brushes. This was the palette knife. Now that you can see it's dry, it's muted. You can see the colors still, but they're more muted. They're sent to the back. And then this is the one with the brayer. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. If you have any questions, please feel free and leave them in the description box below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, do take time to pamper your inner goddess, and I will see you in the next one.